today. It's actually kind of a national toolkit that was designed by the Centers for Disease Control and the National Institute of Health. So this is their, standardized toolkit that they use all over the world to respond to natural disasters. So after a hurricane or an earthquake, they've designed this toolkit to be able to be picked up, adapted to a particular disaster setting, and then have kind of a methodological, systematic way to survey an entire community or city. And so it's supposed to be fast, inexpensive, but also reliable and accurate way to assess public health need. And so we thought, even though it's not a natural disaster here, obviously we know what's happening is a disaster. And the toolkit is adaptable so that it doesn't have to be used by public health professionals. And we know the city of Detroit closed its public health department for 2 years and outsourced a lot of that work. So nobody's been really collecting this information. So we thought, why don't we put this tool in the hands of the community? We'll go out, we'll do the surveying ourselves and get the information like Monica was saying, so that there's this sort of like standardized, irrefutable evidence of what's really happening. And so we kind of took from the bank of the questions some of the emergency response questions and basically some of the validated questions that they had, and then added some about the water shutoff. So you'll see when you have the questionnaire, the first part goes through impacts related to the water shutoff specifically, and then we want to ask people about the other things that have been mapped and studied as part of this austerity governance. So, foreclosure and home ownership, and questions about people's finances and health. The way it works, and we'll get into it a little bit more later, but it works at the household level. So it does a random sampling of 30 blocks in the city of Detroit, and then we're gonna divide into teams and then do a random sampling and try to get 7 completed surveys in each block. And we go and we ask the people, whoever answers the door, to answer questions about their whole household, so that it gives us a picture of what's going on in each house. Does anyone have any questions about toolkit?
I'm sorry, could you say those numbers again? How many neighborhoods and how many?
So the survey is 30 blocks is the ideal, and we're going to do 7 houses in each block. Today we're going to start out with 20, and we'll see where we get. I'm hoping that we can get through it and do all 30, but really the toolkit, like I was saying, it's a standard method, and we're adapting it. So I think one of the things that we're really excited to see is how the community picks it up and how we're able to use it and what we're able to collect together, and what comes out of it is sort of, what it's designed to do, whatever happens. So, yeah.
You have to have an ideal sample size in order for it to be valid.
Yeah, I mean, the more robust the sample size, the more valid it will be. Mm-hmm. But I think what makes it valid is that we sampled randomly, and we did it by the method, so nobody can say, oh, you picked and chose these houses versus those houses, or that neighborhood versus this neighborhood. We did the sample of all of the city of Detroit. We got randomly blocks, selected for us. And so there's no bias in the survey. And then the more houses that we get, kind of the more weight it has when we go to make claims. Yeah.
And this is just phase 2. The mapping was phase 1, surveying is phase 2. Then in the spring we'll do water testing. That'll be phase 3. The analysis piece is phase 4. Then there is the ability to come back in the spring if we feel as though that we need to drill down deeper in certain communities.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily. I'm just going to describe a little bit about some of the mapping work that is the phase 1 and kind of see how this all ties together.